All right. In this lecture, we'll be looking at Amazon RDS, which is Relational Database System, and we'll look at DynamoDB. But first, let's see what RDS is. Amazon RDS is a managed relational database service provided by AWS that simplifies database administration tasks like provisioning, backup, scaling, and maintaining and maintenance. It supports multiple database engines, including MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, Oracle, SQL Server, and Amazon Aurora. So the thing is, AWS has support for all these database engines that have been mentioned, and they have high performance, very scalable, and durable offerings for these services. Now, the key features, automated management, AWS handles database setup, patching, and backups. And so, most of all the things that you'll be doing when it comes to installing my SQL on an instance or a Linux server, worrying about the security and all that, AWS has taken care of all that for you. It has high availability and durability. It's very scalable. You can easily scale storage and compute resources up and down. Performance optimization, they have features like read replica, Aurora distributed storage, improve performance. So what this means is AWS support features where after setting up your database with the right option, you can have replicas of your database in different places and different availability zones, such that while people are hitting your service or trying to call or make requests on your SQL database, and the read replica will respond to reads while giving the actual database. So performance optimization, let me just take that again. The thing about it is they have a features called read replica. So what this does is it helps you create a replica of your database in different availabilities, and this is just to improve performance and to ensure that those who are trying to hit your database with queries are probably directed to the replicas that will just respond to read, whereas the actual database just takes care of write privileges. That way they can balance the load from the database as the case may be. Their security supports encryption, VPC integration, IAM rules, and fine-grained access control. These are other things that we'll be looking at. So they are automatic backup and snapshot. So it ensures data recovery, business continuity. That way you are certain that with Amazon RDS, your database is highly secured and has the right backup mechanisms. So looking at the use cases, RDS can be used for web and mobile application, enterprise applications, data warehousing and analytics, SaaS applications requiring relational databases. So when it comes to relational database service, so when we mean relational databases like MySQL, SQL, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, and the rest, AWS offers one of the most secured, high performance database systems. All right. Another very important service that our AWS offers is the DynamoDB. This is their NoSQL database. So similar to what I just said earlier, relational database management. They also have the NoSQL database, which are used for databases like MongoDB and the rest. So Amazon DB is fully managed NoSQL database service designed for high availability, scalability, and low latency performance. It is a serverless and support both key value and document based data models. So it's fully managed and serverless. There's no need to manage infrastructure, scaling, and backup. So what this just means is everything that has to do with this type of database, you don't have to worry about the instance type, the scaling, the storage, and the rest. This will be fully managed by AWS. It has high performance and low latency. It automatically scales up and down, based on the demand, and the system automatically provision the required nodes for it. So multi-region replication, it also supports global scale applications replication. So it just means that your data are stored in multiple regions, rather your data are replicated in multiple regions. Built-in security, so it supports encryption, it has IAM authentication and VPC integration. Event-driven trigger, so integrates with AWS Lambda for real-time processing. So Lambda is a serverless function by AWS, which we'll be discussing in another video, and this means that with the help of triggers from Lambda, it's easy to run certain processes in this type of database. So time to live, automatically delete expired data to optimize storage. ACID transactions, support atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable transactions. This is the type of transaction that's common with NoSQL database. So use cases of this type of database are, real-time applications like chat apps, gaming, and the likes, e-commerce platforms, Internet of Things applications, and our regular mobile and web applications. All right, that's just a bit of an explanation on how Amazon Dynamo DB works and their features. We've seen use cases, so we'll just go straight on how to initiate this with AWS. Thank you. All right, welcome again. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create an RDS, which we have talked about in the previous slides. So once you're logged into your Amazon management, your Amazon console, you come to Aurora and RDS. Alright, so here you'll be creating your databases. One of the things I must warn you about is when it comes to using additional resources on AWS, they might not necessarily be within the free tier. So while practicing this, be sure to see what you're doing and follow my steps exactly if you don't want to incur cost. Now, to create a database, you come to create database. You can choose any of the database engine. So for the purpose of this lesson, we'll stick to MySQL. So you might be creating an Oracle database or Microsoft SQL Server database. I'm selecting MySQL. Here I can choose the database engine. There are different versions of MySQL 5.7, MySQL 8.0, and what have you. In this case, you might be creating the database for production or development and test. This would give you the different availability clusters and durability. So if you look at selecting production, you have it in multi-AC with two read replicas. If you select the tests, you have one write with endpoints and a standby version. So you have the options to pick from this availability and duration. That's the deployment types that you want. So let's stick to the free tier. The free tier just puts our database in one availability zone, so that would help us save cost. I can give my instance identifier, that's the name I want to use to identify my database. I can call it AWS DB. AWS DB. Here I set credentials for my database. You can use the Amazon Secrets Manager, but in this case I want us to select choose our database by ourselves, so we won't be using this option. We'll use the self option where I can set a password for my database. So the root user of the database is admin. I can give it a password. I'll give it my own preferred password. When I say the password is weak, but I'll just leave it as it is. And I come down to select the instance configuration. Here you want to choose the type of instance that would run the database. Because we're selecting the free tier, it's giving us a 2 vCPUs, 1 gig RAM, and a network up of 2085 megabyte per second. So if I choose to change this, definitely it means I'm ready to incur cost. But if I choose the production template, I'm sure the instance type will change from what it is to something else. Here we're selecting our disk space that will be allocated to our instance. Disk space that will be allocated to our instance. Now I want to choose the connectivity type. So don't connect to an EC2 compute resource. So having this option means that I want to tie this instance, this database, to a particular instance within my AWS account. But this is not the case. I want the database to be independent, and I don't want it to be fixated to a particular instance. I come down here, I make it public. Now, so making it public means that I want to be able to access my instance from anywhere. Here I can choose my security group, meaning that I want to set a security group for the instance. So the default, I don't know what the default is, but I can choose to create a new security group and tie whatever preferences I want for it. Let me work with an existing one. I think this security group works for what we want to do. So I'm choosing launch wizard 2, which is an existing security group anyway. All I just need to go and do on that security group is to enable the firewall permission for port 3306, which is the MySQL database firewall. So, and I come down database authentication. I'm just going through to be sure that I have my options properly selected. Then I come here to choose, I have to give it an initial database name. So here I call it my AWS underscore DB, my AWS underscore DB. So this would enable me connect to the SQL engine and setting that initial database. So it means that once it creates this initial once it creates this RDS, it will definitely create a database with the name my AWS underscore DB. So I can choose the backup type, whether I want a daily retention backup. So these are some of the nice features that come with RDS. But with this gives me an estimated cost, telling me that this will cost me. So it's on the free tier for the next 12 months. However, subsequently it will cost me about 750. Okay, so I don't have the pricing here because this is within the free tier. So I guess if I change this to production, for instance, using the same settings I've chosen, if I change this to production and come down to the price, yeah, so this is giving me an estimate of what it will cost me monthly. The storage will be about $156. Provisioning the input output throughput it's about $900. So this database configuration will cost me $1,500. That's quite huge, but I'm sure with the right configuration we can get a price that is a bit lesser. I'm definitely certain that if I choose this other instance type, which means that it will be running on 2 instances, one will be the primary read and write, and the other one will be a failover, that's a standby in case anything goes wrong with the primary database. With that, I'm looking at the price within $962 monthly. So to have your system run, your infrastructure run RDS, this is what the cost implication is. So I stick to the free tier and I scroll down to the bottom, and once I am comfortable with everything, I create the database. So I'll just pause the video for a bit so that we can see the database come live. Now before I pause the video, you can quickly see this pop up. You just have to ignore it. These are additional benefits of using AWS. So it will create an elastic cache cluster for your RDS, meaning, so elastic cache is a resource, is a service that helps you it makes your database read requests very fast. So it means that what happens is that you create another layer of resource on your database such that once a query is made to the database, it caches it in the elastic cache, and once somebody is requesting for this or running this same query, it just returns it from the cache, which does not have to put pressure on the database, and it makes your database run pretty faster. The performance will be so fast that you can almost have multiple applications querying your database, and the speed of response and all that will be significantly different from if you just run the RDS database alone. Alright, so the database is fully created. So one of the things you can quickly do is to view your database connection details. Here you already know your password, definitely you set that yourself. The username is admin, but this is the endpoint, which we usually refer to as hostname when we're trying to connect to our database server. Let me quickly pull up my SQL client that I have. Alright, I'm trying to connect to the database using a software called SQL Electron. You could be using any MySQL client software. It could be MySQL Workbench. You could be logging in from PHP whatever the case may be. Here, I want to add a new database account. So here, I'll just call it AWS DB 2025. The host name is that endpoint that is being displayed here, so I'll just copy this and paste it here. The port is 3306. That's my SQL port. This is admin. This is the password that I use in creating my database. Then the initial database is AWS. I'm trying to remember what that was. I think it's AWS underscore DB. I guess I called it my AWS underscore DB. Let me just confirm that anyway. So I've saved this information. I click on, so clicking on the database, I can see all the resources, my ports, all the information that concerns the database, and I'm just trying to pull out the additional information where I have the initial database name written. The full information about your database that you configured will be found under configuration. So here, yes, this is what I'm looking for, my AWS underscore DB, which is the default database name. So I choose that this is a MySQL type of database. So I test. So this just confirms if I'm able to connect to while this is taking time. Alright, so the connection failed, and that's because I'm unable to connect to the database. One of the reasons this will be is the firewall. So I need to be sure that my security is giving me access to port 3306. So if I come to connectivity and security, this is the VPC security group. I can just go straight to it from here. So what is technically missing is the inbound rule that would allow port 3306, which is the MySQL default port, and go straight into so I just need to edit the inbound rule, add a new rule, select MySQL /Aurora. So this gives me this allows you to have access to the port 3306. So I save this, and once this is saved, I'll go back to connect again. So I'll come back here and I try to test again. Voila, so connection test successfully connected. This means I have been able to connect to the database. Now this becomes one of my you just create a widget here that I can use to go straight into the. So if you are seeing this screen, it means that you've been able to successfully connect to the MySQL database. While I'm in the database, I can create a table called login. Just want to keep it simple. ID int 10 primary key auto increment, then I do name backup 20 age car 10. This is just me trying to execute a simple MySQL table. You have an error. Alright, so here I want to create a table. Just take that out, copy the simple script where I can create a table for persons and execute. So it means that I've created a new table called persons inside my database. I can as well go into other tables and try to see go into other databases and see all the tables that are inside, and I can choose to query the content of this table. For instance, if I want to query this table where I have different users, the query automatically appears here, and I can decide that I just want to see hosts, user from this table, just the host and user details. So this is just me running some pretty much simple queries using the default databases and tables in the MySQL database I just created with AWS. So I'm sure if you're familiar with running queries and using SQL, this will be a piece of cake for you. And most importantly, if you need to download this software, you can just Google SQL Electron, SQL Electron, I guess. Yep. So you can just go to any of these links that has a download button, and you download the one that fits your operating system. That's it about RDS. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next.